All right, Miss Aurorah is back. Miss Aurorah is coming on in here, y'all, on a whole 4 hours of sleep. Don't you know? Okay. Miss Aurorah wants to thank all of the new secured entrepreneurs who have come on board here at Aurorah Dey Consulting for the month of February. For those of you who are on the calendar for the remainder of the month, I see you, I thank you, and I can't wait to start working with you. All right, now recently we have had a plethora of entrepreneurs come on board who are unmarried, living together, and they are doing business together. So Ms. Aurorah has had to explain the consequences of this when one transitions, what actually happens to that individual's estate, and how it is the other individual will have absolutely zero access to it, to anything, if in fact the correct documents are not already prepared before the transitioning. All right, so Ms. Aurorah wants to talk to all of the secured entrepreneurs about the consequences of being unmarried. You're living with someone unmarried, and you may be doing some type of a financial venture together, but you're unmarried. All right, let's get into it. So for those of you who do not know who I am Miss Aurorah Dey, and this is the Secured Entrepreneur Movement. Secured entrepreneurs, Miss Aurorah had to share this story with the entrepreneurs who are unmarried, living together, and doing business together. So Miss Aurorah saw this young lady, this beautiful woman from New York City. She said that she said, these are her words, that God blessed her with this commercial daycare. And this commercial daycare was the first 24-hour commercial daycare in the state of New York. She said it was a fabulous business. Everything was great. She knows she was called to do it. Okay. Then she met a man and she fell in love with this man. She says she gave up her business. Now, she didn't say whether she sold the business or what happened to the business. Clearly, she never went back to the business, but she said she gave up her business and started helping this man. Now, how many of us have done this? Okay, give up our thing that is the thing that we're supposed to be doing, the thing that's making our way in life, right? We give that up and start doing somebody else's stuff. So she started doing what this man was doing. And she said she helped him secure, I think she said $10 million. She said the thing was some type of iPad. No. I don't know what she said. A tablet, some type of tablet that the man was bringing to the market. She said he was 44 years old. Well, as soon as that $10 million tapped that bank account, this man died. She said the man died. She clearly found out that she was not going to be able to access that money. She was not going to be able to continue the thing that she thought they were doing. But really, you're unmarried. This is what he is doing. Her name was not on anything. She went on to say that she became homeless and she's just now putting her life back together. And you know what, really, I was listening intently because the woman was crying so hard. I mean, she was just really, falling apart, only to find out that this happened like 4 years ago or something like that. The way she was crying and going on, I thought it was like this must have recently happened. And she just recently found out that, this is a wrap. But she said, this thing happened a few years ago and she's still trying to rebuild her life. So, this is bad. This is bad. So I want to start with the state of New York because this woman was in the state of New York. I want to let all of the secured entrepreneurs know each state has intestate laws, and if you are unmarried, living with somebody, but you are accumulating assets with this person. You are contributing to the life and the lifestyle of another person. You may have children together, but you don't have any legal documentation that's going to assist either of the parties when either of the parties transition. You have no power of attorney over the person for finances, no power of attorney over the person for medical. So if something happens to that person, guess what? The mother or the siblings. Now I'm gonna tell you all what's going on in each state, so you'll know what's going on. Okay, let me get into that. So in the state of New York, if you die intestate, remember, you're living with someone now. You're living with someone. You don't have a will. You don't have a trust. Now, everybody here in the Secured Entrepreneur Movement knows that we don't do the will trick because we know that you're going to end up in probate anyway. But heck, if you don't even at least have a will, yes, your estate is going to end up in probate. If you've got some things of value, you need to get it together. Okay. So in the state of New York, if there are no descendants and no spouse, the probate estate instead passes to the decedent's parents equally. Now, this is if you got two parents, okay? That's a blessing. Or all goes to the surviving parent. If no parents survive, the estate passes to the deceased person's siblings. So you got to have some siblings that you actually like, okay? That you get along with, because we all know. And Mr. Aurorah can tell you about some devilish, evil, demonic sibling rivalry, okay? All right? Or children of a deceased sibling. Half siblings count the same as whole siblings, okay? So if you were sitting around talking about, that's not my brother, that's not my sister, guess what? They get to get something, possibly, okay? Half siblings count as whole siblings. In the absence of a surviving spouse, parent, sibling, or descendants of siblings, the probate estate generally will pass 1/2 to the deceased person's mother's relatives. Do you get along with your mother's relatives? And 1/2 to the father's relatives. Do you get along with anybody on your father's side of the family? According to a specified order that begins with grandparents on each side and continues with collateral relatives as distant as the decedent's first cousins. Now, most people, your first cousins are it, man. You did everything with your first cousins, right? Somebody told me that they did everything with their first cousins, right? But in this case, it's your first cousins once removed, okay? Great grandchildren of the decedent's grandparents. If the closest surviving relative is a second cousin, a great-great-grandchild of the decedent's grandparents, or more remote relative, the estate passes to the state of New York. So it escheats to the state of New York. It's going to go to the state of New York. If they go that far down and there is no one, your estate belongs to the state. I can't think of a better reason why I need to be prepared. I can't think of a better reason why today, I'm talking right now while you're watching this video, okay? You better put something in writing. Sign your name, put an X, whatever it is you need to do, because this thing is real. This woman could not get into that bank account. And Miss Aurorah tells all of the secure entrepreneurs, you need to have that top 10 trust attached to your bank account. So upon your transitioning, you've given someone the authority to continue to conduct your business. I want to get into the state of Florida because we had some other entrepreneurs who are unmarried, living together, doing a business in Florida. Florida happens to be, as we know, a non-income tax state. They also have no inheritance tax, okay? But in the state of Florida, this is what they have for you if you die intestate, okay? In Florida, if you've got parents but you don't have a spouse or children, the entire estate is going to go to your parents. I think that's nice. If you don't have any parents, your entire estate is going to go to your siblings. Again, hopefully you're getting along, okay? If no siblings, your estate is split evenly between nieces and nephews. Nieces and nephews. If no nieces and no nephews, your estate will be split evenly between paternal and maternal grandparents. If you've got and I think that's wonderful. If you've got no grandparents, your estate will be split evenly between paternal and maternal aunts and uncles. Do you have any aunts and uncles? I don't. I don't have to worry about any of that, okay? If no aunts and uncles, The estate is split evenly between paternal and maternal cousins. Okay. If no cousins, the entire estate goes to the family of your past spouse. Listen to that. If the ex-spouse is deceased, okay? So if you had a spouse before, if you were ever married before, I mean, they might dig this up. They might dig this whole thing up, okay? That person, if they're alive, will get your estate. If they're not alive, their family will get your estate. But now, bear in mind, if this is not a scenario for you, you've never been legally married before, then your estate goes to the state of Florida, okay? It's very serious. Now, we have some entrepreneurs who are living in the state of California, unmarried, living together, doing business together. There's a fortunate thing going on in the state of California. First of all, we know that the state of California is a community property state. The state of California also recognizes domestic partnership, and you can apply, you can register as a domestic partnership. The state of California also recognizes cohabitation. Okay, so if you're in the state of California, you are not legally married, you're living together, you need to check out how it is you're going to now become legally cohabitants. You're going to legally cohabitate, or you're going to register as a domestic partner, whatever that is, because I found that California had the most interesting intestate laws. Okay, so this is what is going to happen in the state of California if you die intestate and you don't have a trust in place and you don't have any legal documentation to give the person that you're living with permission to do anything with your assets. This is what the state of California is ready to do. In the state of California, if you've got children but you don't have a legal spouse, the children will inherit everything. If you've got a domestic partner, you know, and I think that this is going to apply also to the cohabitation. As I'm stating, please look that up. With no children or no immediate next of kin, like parents, siblings, nieces, or cousins, then that spouse or that domestic partner will inherit everything. Sibling with no other next of kin, parents, children, spouse, relatives, then the siblings will inherit everything. Okay? You got a spouse, a domestic partner, something like that, and a child. Well, the spouse inherits all community property and half of the deceased separate property. Now, when they say separate property in the state of California, when you get married, but you already had some assets, you already had some assets like real estate, things like that. Okay, they consider that separate property. So your domestic partner, possibly the person that you are registered to cohabitate with, depending on how that works, will inherit all community property and half of the deceased separate property. Okay, you got a spouse and 2+ children, then the spouse inherits all community property and a third of the deceased separate property, with children inheriting an evenly split remaining 2/3 of the separate property. If you've got a spouse and parents, okay, the spouse inherits all community property and half of the deceased separate property, with the parents inheriting the remaining half of separate property. And I think that's very nice. I think that is very, very nice. I haven't read any other state that has that so far. So this is the first time that I'm actually seeing that the spouse along with the parents would get the separate, a portion of the separate property. So that means that people have to get together, agree on who's going to do what, because something more than likely is going to have to be sold to get the percentages, right? Okay, so if you got a spouse and siblings, no surviving parents, the spouse inherits all community property and half of the separate property. Siblings inherit the remaining half of separate property. So everybody's included, okay? So you definitely don't want to leave this planet, with situations where people that you don't get along with get to have anything that belongs to you. You don't want to have that happen. So please, let's take care of that. All right, I want to talk about Nevada because we get a lot of people who come on board who are here in the state of Nevada. They don't want to go down to the little white wedding chapel and get married. They have no interest in that. They're going to live together and be unmarried, and they're actually doing business together. So this is what the state of Nevada has to say. If you are unmarried, living together, okay, you're doing business together. This is just it. In Nevada, if you are unmarried and die intestate, you have children. Your children will inherit your estate in equal shares. If you die with no children, but you do have living parents, your estate will pass to your parents. If your parents are not alive, the estate will then go to your siblings. If your parents are no longer living and you do not have siblings, they're no longer living, your estate will go to your closest living relative. How many of the secured entrepreneurs know how quickly people come out of the woodwork, okay? With whatever they need to prove that they were related to you, okay? It happens. So just as any other state, when you die intestate without a spouse or any living relatives, then your estate is going to go to the state of Nevada. Now, recently, Alicia sent me an article about some things that are going on here in Nevada. Very disturbing, okay? There was an article. This woman says that her mother, who was a senior, lived alone in this house. The warranty deed was in the mother's name. The mother transitioned, and clearly, whatever happened, she didn't have time to get down there and do what she needed to do. As soon as that death certificate was issued, some man came along and swiped that property up. I don't know how the man did it, but it happens. And the report is stating just how often this thing actually does happen. When, it's kind of like unclaimed property in a sense, okay? Because the person is deceased. So the man, the woman and her husband contacted this man, and he was like, well, yeah, when I sell it, I'll give you this and that. But he did sell the house, and he sold it for double of what the market value was, but did not give this woman and her husband anything. Okay, this is very real, which is why it's important to have your situation together. So now I want to tell the secured entrepreneurs a few things. There are some things that will not go to probate. So if in fact you die intestate, but you have these things will not go into probate. And I get asked this all the time. What can my non-married person that I'm living with, now, I mean, everybody got some names for these people, right? What can this person expect to actually be able to do, be able to get to control whatever it is, okay, if this thing happens this way. So these are the things that are not going to go to probate. So Miss Aurorah is going to start with property that is transferred to a trust. Okay, let's just keep it real. Anything that's transferred to a trust is not going to go to probate. Proceeds of life insurance to a beneficiary other than your estate, not going to probate. Property owned with someone else as community property or in joint tenancy with the right of survivorship, not going to go to probate. Vehicles that have a transfer on death registration. Now, here in the Secured Entrepreneur Movement, we entrust our vehicle, so we won't have to worry about doing that. But if you are not entrusting your vehicle, then you want to make sure that you have a transfer on death registration, okay? Funds in a 401k, IRA, or other retirement accounts, not going to probate. And of course, as I said previously, bank accounts with a payable on death designation. You all know Miss Aurorah tells you that you need to go and have that Totten Trust placed on your bank accounts so that you don't have the issue of somebody having to present certain things and waiting long periods of time and all that stuff. Let's just get that together, because immediately upon your death, this account has the person who you named has the authority to conduct business with that account. The other thing Mr. Aurorah wants to say is you've got to be extremely mindful of who it is you are cohabitating with, who it is that you are spending time with, time as your most precious commodity. We have had a lot of breakups here in the secured entrepreneur movement, where unmarried people living together, doing business together, decided that they could no longer do it because, it's going to come up. What is the provision that you are leaving for me in the event of your death? And that's when you find out that, somebody really does not like you as a person, really does not care about you, really does not trust you. They don't want you named on anything. They don't want you to be a beneficiary. They don't want you to be a trustee. They don't want you to be a manager. They don't want you involved in their affair. These are the people who really don't belong in a relationship, okay? Which is probably why they're not legally married to you, because they already know that they don't belong in a relationship. Because when it comes down to things like this, these are the important things. So at least have a life insurance policy so that, so people are unmarried, living together. You have these children. What is the provision that's being made? Well, there's no provision being made if there's no tangible assets. There's so much red tape involved that you really just have to go down a list. Maybe one person is working a job. There's some benefits. Okay, what did this person sign at this place of employment? Relating to life insurance. Who did he put on there? Was it the child? Now we have a lot of people that will put their parents. They will put a mother, they will put a father, they will put a sibling. They will put anybody before they put the person that they're living and sleeping with. It's very real. So we've got to all be mindful of the types of relationships that we're getting into, and we're living with people, we're unmarried, and anything could pop off. I can tell you, my great-grandmother told me once she was married, and then she was no longer married. And then she got involved with a man named John, and John had a heart attack in the kitchen. This is her story. I don't know. I wasn't there. But anyway, she told me that John had a life insurance policy, but his family came to the place where they were living and thought they were going to do some certain things or had control over certain things. But my great-grandmother is the one that had the insurance policy, so everything did go to her, whatever that was. Okay. And I understand that there was some, very unhappy people after that. Okay. So I'm just saying, at least have some type of life insurance policy. If in fact you're not going to do a full-fledged family trust because there's no legal marriage, you need to at least do the living trust. And if you haven't seen the video for the living trust, please go on the channel and find that video, because I'm telling you that you don't want to put any of your valuable assets in that living trust. You want to have the powers of attorneys in there, and you want to be able to point to where the actual valuables are and who the trustee is over those entities that are housing those valuables. Okay, you want to create some type of solid asset management trust. Okay, if this thing does not work out, or if one of us transitions, this is what is going to take place. This is what I definitely want to know that you have. This is what I definitely want to know that the children have, because we all know that families will turn into vultures. If you've got something that they don't have, or whatever, just because they know you're no longer around and you got something in there, they're coming for it. Okay. And the person that you've been residing with has no power over that because you're unmarried. And the state law, the intestate state law is what it is. Okay. So if you have not had the opportunity to get the Trust Basics course, go down in the link below, get in there. So this way, give yourself some idea as to how you want to get things set up for yourself. All right. So that's all Miss Aurorah wants to share in this video. It's Money Monday, so I'll be back with some other things. I'm going to answer some other questions that you all emailed. I want to thank you for emailing. Please continue to do so at info@aurorahdayconsulting.com. And you all know you can find me, Miss Aurorah Dey, at aurorahdayconsulting.com. And until next time, ta-ta.